June 27th, 1944, 05:42 a.m. Just outside the village of Rauray, the morning fog clings low to the Normandy hedgerows, thick enough to taste. The fields are still until the crack of a German MG-42 slices through the mist like a buzzsaw. British infantry hit the dirt. Someone yells for cover. Someone else doesn't get the chance. And in the middle of that sudden chaos, one man rises to his feet. Company Sergeant Major Stan Hollis, helmet dented, Bren gun slung over his shoulder, sprints forward alone. He moves as if the machine gun nest ahead of him doesn't exist, like fear is a language he never learned. Mud sprays behind his boots as another burst of German fire rips past his shoulder. You can almost feel the heat of the rounds as they cut the air. Hollis doesn't flinch. He charges straight into the hedgerow, shoving branches aside, teeth gritted, eyes locked on the muzzle flashes. A German gunner spots the moving silhouette and swings the barrel toward him. For a split second, it's just two men staring at each other through gun smoke and greenery. Then, Hollis fires first. The Bren gun roars, and the German position erupts in splinters and shouts. Hollis keeps advancing, closing the gap, refusing to stop until he's on top of them, until he knows his men behind him can move again. But as the smoke drifts, something else stirs in the fog ahead. A deeper rumble. Metallic. Slow. A sound Hollis knows far too well. Tanks. And not Allied ones. The kind of sound that means this skirmish is about to explode into something far bigger. Something no one on his side is prepared for. The rumble grows heavier, so heavy you feel it in your chest before you hear it in your ears. Through the thinning fog, dark silhouettes begin to take shape. Long barrels, angular turrets, Panzer IVs advancing with the confidence of a force expecting to smash straight through the British line. Behind them, Waffen-SS infantry move like a shadow, disciplined, coordinated, certain of victory. This was supposed to be their moment. A perfectly timed counterattack meant to break British momentum after the fighting around Tilly-sur-Seulles. The German timetable demanded speed, shock, overwhelming force. But standing in front of them, literally standing, as if the world isn't collapsing, is Hollis. He wipes the sweat and mud from his brow with the back of his hand, eyes narrowing, as the first tank grinds over a hedgerow. Its turret begins to rotate toward him. Most men would already be running. Many would be praying. Hollis simply leans forward and mutters, "Not today." He darts to the side, keeping low, weaving through broken earth and shattered branches. He spots a German strongpoint tucked into the rise of a field, an MG team reinforcing the very flank the tanks are counting on. If they stay intact, the entire British position could collapse. Hollis doesn't hesitate. He charges again, this time even faster, shouting orders over his shoulder for his men to follow, though most can barely keep up with him. Bullets whip past, snapping twigs like brittle bones. The ground erupts around his boots as the Germans realize he's coming straight for them. But by the time they react, he's already there. A grenade arcs through the air. A German voice screams something in panic. Then, a deafening blast. The MG-42 falls silent. Hollis storms the trench line alone, firing as he moves, forcing the Germans to fall back in confusion. His aggression is so sudden, so ferocious, that the Waffen-SS troops momentarily think a full British platoon has launched a countercharge. They can't see him clearly through the smoke. They only see one thing. Their timeline is slipping, and the tanks behind them stop. For the first time that morning, hesitation ripples through the German advance. But Hollis isn't finished.
Not even close. He hears shouting from a stone farmhouse up ahead, a fortified nest blocking the last approach into Rauray itself. Hollis grips his Bren gun, breath steaming in the cold air. Another charge is coming. A bigger one.
The farmhouse looms through the smoke. Thick stone walls, narrow windows, and a German rifle squad dug in tight behind overturned carts and sandbags. It's the kind of position designed to chew up attackers, a place where even a cautious approach means death. Hollis chooses the opposite of cautious. He sprints across the open ground, boots slamming into the dirt, Bren gun rattling against his chest. The Germans inside spot him instantly. Muzzle flashes strobe from the upper floor. Rounds slap into the ground at his heels, kicking up sharp bursts of dust. Any sane soldier would dive for cover. Hollis runs faster. He reaches the side of the farmhouse, chest heaving, shoulder pressed against cold stone. The gunfire thunders inches away through the wall. You can almost hear the Germans shouting, confused, panicked, trying to reposition. Hollis pulls 2 grenades from his webbing, flicks the pins out with practiced motion, and hurls them through the nearest window. A heartbeat. Then 2 brutal explosions shake the building. Dust blows out of the windows. The firing stops. Hollis doesn't wait. He climbs through the blasted opening, boots crunching over broken glass and splintered wood. Inside, smoke coils around the staircase. A wounded German stumbles forward, rifle trembling. Hollis's Bren barks once, echoing through the stone corridor. He secures the lower floor in seconds. Upstairs, another MG-42 team tries to swing their weapon toward the stairwell. Hollis is already halfway up, eyes burning, teeth clenched, when he fires a burst, so close the room fills with sparks. Silence returns. A deadly, unbelievable silence. Outside, German infantry see the farmhouse, stop firing. They see the windows blown out. They see movement inside. And they assume the worst. Not that one man has taken the fortified position, but that multiple squads, maybe an entire company, have breached their flank. The Waffen-SS line begins to waver. Men pull back, shouting at their officers. The neat timetable of the counterattack collapses minute by minute. And up in the farmhouse window, Hollis watches their confusion unfold with a grim, exhausted satisfaction. But then, he spots something else in the distance. A glint of armor. A turret turning. A tank lining up its shot right at the farmhouse he just captured. He's not out of this yet, not even close. The tank's turret locks on to the farmhouse like an eye narrowing in anger. A long-barreled silhouette, a Panther, far deadlier than the Panzer IVs trailing behind it. Its engine growls, belching exhaust, treads grinding up chunks of earth as it finds the perfect angle to fire. He feels the vibration against the stone floorboards. Dust drifts from the ceiling. One shell could turn the entire building and everyone in it into flying rubble. He has seconds, maybe less. He bolts down the staircase, leaps through the shattered doorway, and dives behind a low stone wall as the Panther fires. The blast is apocalyptic. The farmhouse explodes outward in a storm of debris, beams, stones, shards of plaster, raining down like shrapnel. He shields his face as the shockwave rolls over him, the heat punching through his uniform. If he'd waited 2 more seconds, he'd be gone. The Panther starts advancing, emboldened by the destruction. But Hollis doesn't run. He rises to a crouch, scanning for any position his men could use. He spots a PAT team further back, pinned, unable to get a clean shot. And without a clear line, the tank will tear through them one by one. Hollis knows exactly what has to happen, and it's insane. He stands up. Under a curtain of small arms fire, he sprints toward the PAT crew, shouting for covering fire.
The Germans can't believe what they're seeing. One man breaking from cover, charging in the open, bullets sparking off stones around him. He reaches the team, grabs the loader by the shoulder, and yells over the chaos. "Shift left! I'll draw it!" It's suicide, but it's also the only chance. Hollis dashes sideways, waving his arms, firing short bursts from his Bren to force the Panther to rotate toward him. The turret swings, slowly, ominously, tracking his movement. The ground shakes as the hull grinds to follow. For a terrifying moment, he thinks they've got him. But the Panther crew commits fully, turning to face this lone, infuriating target. Which is exactly what he wanted. Because now, its vulnerable flank is exposed. The PAT fires. A streak of smoke, a sharp metallic crack, a deafening hit. The Panther shudders, smoke belching from its side armor. The hatch bursts open as the crew scrambles out, abandoning the burning machine. The sight sends a shockwave through the nearby Waffen-SS infantry. This wasn't part of their plan. Tanks weren't supposed to die today. Not like this. Not to a handful of infantry. Not because of one impossible man. Hollis watches the crew scatter. Then he sees the German line begin to break. Hesitation, turning into confusion. Confusion slipping toward fear. But the battle isn't over. Because further up the ridge, more armored shapes begin to emerge. The Germans are preparing another push. And Hollis, mud-caked, exhausted, breathing like a man who's outrun death 3 times already, knows he's the only one close enough to stop the breakthrough. Again.
Hollis braces his hands on his knees, lungs burning, sweat mixing with the grit on his face. The ridge ahead trembles under the weight of yet another German push. Infantry forming up, armor shifting into assault lines, officers shouting over the engine noise. Every instinct tells him this is the decisive moment. If the Germans break through here, Rauray falls. If Rauray falls, the entire British position behind it could unravel. Hollis straightens, rolling his shoulders, Bren gun hanging low but ready. His men gather behind him, some limping, some bleeding, all exhausted, but watching him with the same question in their eyes. What now, CSM? Hollis scans the terrain. Hedgerows, a sunken lane, a narrow choke point between 2 fields, a place where a small group could stall a larger force if someone was willing to face the first hit. He steps forward, without a word. His men protest instantly. He turns, voice low but unwavering. They're not coming through here, not while we're still breathing. He positions himself at the bottleneck, half hidden behind a broken stone marker. German infantry begin advancing, spread out, disciplined, confident again after reorganizing. A squad spots movement near Hollis's position and opens fire. Bullets whip past, sparking off stone. Hollis returns fire with controlled, vicious bursts. His Bren thunders across the fields, echoing from hedgerow to hedgerow. The Germans hit the dirt, convinced they're facing multiple British positions. Officers shout for smoke. Units halt, then pull back behind the next ridge, trying to identify the threat. They can't, because it's just him. Every time they regroup and push again, Hollis shifts position, never firing from the same spot twice. His bursts come from the left hedgerow, then the right, then the center. To the Germans listening through the thick Normandy air, it sounds like platoons repositioning. A full defensive line. Not a single mud-covered sergeant major moving through the hedges with the stubbornness of a man who refuses to die. Minutes stretch, then an hour, and slowly, unbelievably, the German momentum bleeds away. Officers call for a pause, the tanks hold, infantry dig in instead of advancing. Their timetable collapses completely.
By the time British reinforcements arrive, the Waffen-SS assault force, an entire Panzer division strike element, has stalled so hard that commanders on both sides struggle to understand what happened. Later, when wounded German prisoners are questioned, they all say the same thing. They thought they were fighting several platoons, multiple machine gun teams, a large entrenched British force. When the truth reaches them that they were stalled by one man, silence. Sheer, stunned silence. Back near the hedgerow, Stan Hollis lowers his empty bren, sweat dripping off his chin. His uniform is torn, his voice is nearly gone, but he's alive. And because he lived, because he refused to stop, the British line at Rauray held. One man didn't just delay an attack, he disrupted an entire armored timetable. He saved countless lives, and he earned a place in history that even the hardest men of the Waffen-SS could only describe with disbelief. One man against a division, and he didn't break.